was civil, ludo, gul, or ziv, vabi, zoov, jiz. So the numbers 88 and 14, what do those numbers mean to you?
88 just it seems like loops and circles. So I would say something that is indefinite, something that could keep on going, and yet something that's completed.
And before I get into the others, there's this, I've talked about the Atazoth thing as how it relates to Tagut. And one of the things that has, so there's like a dark or satanic Sufi, I guess people call themselves, the theory that in one way, if Atazoth means the increaser of the Azoth, the primal elixir, that sort of thing, that's whatever you call God or whatever, that's an appropriate name, or treat as God. That's kind of an appropriate name for that. And if Tagut is the one who breaks through the boundaries and whatever, so again, it's the perception. So it's in the Quran, it's used in different sense. But from the other angle, God, Allah would be the Tagut. So I can kind of understand that, like some of the stuff, in this you have the taking off the natural man. I mostly agree with the sort of stuff it says, but the taking off of the natural man and this conflict, not quite to the extent of that the feminist movement has tended to do, but the conflict between the sexes, but some of the stuff too, like I don't think that the answer isn't telling women and slaves to obey and believe no matter what and all that stuff. That's not the answer either. So I definitely don't agree with that. And it feels like if you, to some people, because like Malik, well, is that Malik Taus? Because there's different myths about Malik Taus. Is Malik Taus an evil being, or is it just some loyal angel and that sort of stuff? But it's over hell and stuff. So, it's Gnog Manog, the stinking body, but over the hell realms. That's not necessarily something sinister per se. It's definitely numinous, but so I understand how it's coming in from the different things. And this next verse, I guess, addresses that same thing, is sticking to your path. And a lot of people are going to have you seen some of the books that some of the Jews carry around? Because it's hard to learn all those rules about all the food and clothes and stuff like this, because it's worse. It's worse than the stuff you find in the Bible. Even though it doesn't say, it doesn't have Jesus said he's going to try to restore the law. So it's not this antinomian figure that people quite think. It's just anti-conservative. There's a difference. But even with all the rules here, the rabbis maybe be stricter. So people carry around little books to see what they can eat and stuff.
Yeah. Isn't there like hundreds? There's hundreds of them.
What?
Isn't there like hundreds of
Oh yeah, in the Bible alone. You can narrow some of them down, right? You don't need, if you know what the ingredients are that are like pig based and predator based and stuff like this, you can just skip a lot of that. And here you kind of skip a lot of that and just say, oh, meat eating animals, scavenger animals. Okay, that's different. You can eat chickens and stuff too, but they're not quite the same thing, but you know what I mean. But you do need to keep the chickens away from the dying chickens and stuff like that, because some animals, if you leave even if it's a decent sort of animal, it's like cows will eat other cows. If you leave if you throw the corpses of cows to the cows will end up eating the cows too. but you want to remove that. And naturally, they wouldn't be all cooped up and they wouldn't do stuff like this. But there's stuff that comes through when you're talking some of these captive animals, right? That you just never, they never do this in the wild, but for some reason, people keep them cooped up and they'll do stuff. But I say 143 say, I found nothing what has been revealed to me that forbids men to eat of any food except carrion. You know what carrion is, right? I'm not sure everybody knows that. I don't. Oh, okay. I wonder what went on. The last meeting just loaded. So
Okay. Mine, I think this is lagging. My connection is starting to.
The flesh of swine, for those who are unclean, any flesh that's been profanely. Well, you know what profane means. It doesn't mean that you're using any particular word. It's a secular thing. So again, the eating is a sacred act. It's not just something confined to a church or something. It's your whole diet can be like that. Like the International Society of Christian Consciousness, they talk about we're not vegetarian, we're Christianitarian. And if you look through the literature, you actually find out they actually do practice animal sacrifice, but they figure the rules are so strict they don't even try.
Wow.
Because that's what you hear is that, oh, the Hindus are vegetarian and they don't eat. No, they do. It's just there's this whole ceremony and stuff to it. And a lot of it's the priest have made it such a thing that only the rich eat the meat, because the rich can only the people who can afford to pay the priest to perform the ritual, only they eat the meat, which is really just some jerk move, just like a lot of these rules. We shall only the priest and the upper class that the priest work for shall hear the scripture. Any Shudra that hears the scripture, we shall pour iron into his ear. Obviously killing him that way, but yeah.
It's like even in religion, they separate the poor from the rich, and just like society now.
Well, some of them, that's so people are saying, well, I do use other sources. As I said, I have Vedic stuff, I have Zoroastrian stuff and whatnot too. But this sort of thing will reach more people, except flesh of swine. It's interesting, this word for swine. The word for swine here is very dirty, very foul, and it's described elsewhere as the khinzir. It's the things that have, so one, you're talking about pigs and stuff like that, but two, you're also talking about those things with fangs and talons and all that stuff. I suppose you don't want to do that because they're so necessary to the forest and their numbers are going down. But I suppose you could eat a woodpecker, but if you shoot at a woodpecker, because it's not really. But a vulture, no, vultures. That's sick. What type of person wants to eat some things that's been picking apart dead bodies? It's
carcasses. Carcass dessert.
But whoever is constrained, neither in. They're not sinning, they're not transgressing. They'll get forgiveness for that. They shouldn't worry about that, because that's one of the things they tell you. Is they leave no allowance. They leave no. The people tend to leave no allowance for what people do because they need to do it to survive. And I think we're out of the food stuff here. So we plagued them 733. So we plagued them with the flood, with locusts, with lice and frogs and blood, clear miracles. Yet they scorned them all, for they were a wicked nation. So you had sort of a 9-plague thing, because that 10th plague in the Bible, that's sort of an exaggeration. People had bleeding sores and because of some insects, and the water was kind of icky looking, bloody looking, and stuff like this. That's one thing, but to say that every firstborn died, That doesn't make sense. Say more of them
No.
died because they ate more food when some of the food was gone bad, sure. But every firstborn, so it's interesting that it's down to 9 plagues, that they make the difference there. But there was a couple times in history where that happened. You know that so some of the stuff in the book of Exodus and stuff like this, it's stuff that's happened repeatedly. It's just not quite known when. But that's part of the point. It's happened repeatedly.
Yeah. Like history repeats itself.
And so they should have learned, but that's the thing. Some years go by, one's not going to know how to deal with it. It's like if things happen, how they could happen in the days or years to come, are people going to learn one way or the other? It's like, what does the Georgia Guidestone say on its top? I pointed that out. Hide yourself from what killed the dead, or something like that. I don't remember exactly at the moment, but you know, it's in the article. Because it turns out the thing was built for 3 reasons: to escape nuclear war. If there's asteroid busters sent, I'm sorry, that's not escaping anything. Because those buildings could be pulverized with the blast, depending on where the thing lands, even 1,000 miles away. But because it's out in the open. But the sea level, if it goes up 225 feet, like it might total, of course, the biggest threat to sea level rise is volcanic activity, not global warming, volcanic activity. So 2 parts of Antarctica, there's volcanic activity arising that's causing a melting. So it's not, because it's melting when it's, what is it, 20 below highs right now?
Yeah.
It's still melting. So it's obviously not some weather thing.
Right.
Because if the weather thing was that off, from 20 to 50 degrees above normal, that sort of thing, you'd have we'd be looking at all the ice on Earth melting in the next year if that was what was going on.
Yeah.
But you know, that's obviously not, you know, and so sea level, and volcanoes. So if Yellowstone goes off, I think there's another 2 in California and up by Maryland or something. So the thing was meant for, you know,
wow.
You know, it was meant to survive. So it's just like earlier, I guess one of the commandments, not to share, not just needlessly go around shedding blood, right? Or not to make it merely a personal thing that you're, you know, but yeah, this verse here, 75 of 8, those who have since embraced the faith and fled their homes and fought with you, they too are your brothers, along with according to the book of God, who are bound by ties of blood and are nearest to one another. So, you know, so you still regard your family. That's not the thing. Like in the Bible, how it says, that's Barabbas. Jesus is 4 people. You know that? Jesus is 4 historical people and a bunch of other mythological characters mixed in and all that stuff. But the guy who's like, you'll hate your family for my sake, your mother, and hate your father and all this other stuff. I don't think that's the guy that actually got killed with his buddies. The book of Revelations is a rewrite from something that guy wrote. You don't start things. You don't start things. Even if you think you're in the right, you try to kind of avoid this whole thing where you just rush into battle because I will fight the Roman army and all this stuff. And some of this stuff, like, and you get, now see, that's the thing. No one's acting this out. So people are getting it. The people are buying some of that Martinet Press stuff, which is sort of a defunct company now, I guess. That really, there's some stories where some ex-army guys acquired weapons on his own, and he's, you know, it's Arnold. It's one of those movie things where you got 1 or 2 guys running around fighting like a whole army off, and it's like, no, you got to stop watching Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and I don't know what the current equivalent of that is, but you know.
Speaking of which, I recently got a book a couple weeks ago, and it was speaking of things that I knew better. So Definitely. Like a movie. Or it could be made into a movie.
Well, that's some of the stuff too. A lot of this stuff is a lot better with the movies, and some of that Hindu stuff is just great like that too. And some of the ancient Egyptians, you knew it was the whole army. If you have any sense, you know it wasn't the whole army in this rather than this divinized pharaoh or whatever the case is. We kind of know better.
Yeah.
Of course, some of the cults in Asia have still existed where you have this divinized hero and people actually fought. He did think this guy fought 3,024 people and this other guy fought 2,000 something or whatever the real numbers were. But those numbers sometimes tell you stuff. They sometimes tell you stuff about the story. And that's one of the things, if you don't believe the story, there's some meaning and stuff that goes with it. Like at night, 12:18, is it 12:18? At nightfall, they returned weeping to their father. This is the Joseph story. They said, we went off to compete together and left Joseph with our packs. The wolf devoured him, but he would not believe us, though we speak the truth. And then they showed him their brother's shirt stained with the false blood. But it's like, really, it be torn to shreds. There's no mention of that. They just dipped his coat that he left behind, and yeah, that's not,
Yeah. And animal blood, I think it was.
What? Well, yeah, it was some sort of animal blood. They and you find and there's always somebody's name's Joseph somewhere around. There's too many people, and you can just and if he has brothers, they're like, it says in the Bible, and we shall kill our brother Joseph. It's like, that's not the context.
Watch out, Joseph.
And 1666, I guess, because it has 3 6s in a row. That's important enough on itself, right? Because I've shared so many 666 related stuff on the channel. Might as well share this one. In cattle too, we have a worthy lesson. We give you to drink of that which is in their bellies between the bowels and the bloodstreams, pure milk, pleasant for those who drink it. And that's, I guess a blood related lesson, important enough. Because that's the thing. The blood goes into all this other stuff, and it helps produce other stuff. When you have other fluids, the blood's part of that process too. Well, that doesn't quite sound right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So all this stuff people talk about, oh well, no, blood doesn't do that. And yeah, it kind of does. But it's sort of a sign. You got some is wasted, some is producing something to benefit for other people. The blood itself is benefiting you. So so who can deny that we're and okay, 16 and 15. Yeah, he's forbidden carry on blood, the flesh of swine, any flesh consecrated in name other than whoever's compelled through necessity, intending either to sin or transgress. Yeah, there's a difference when you're doing something and you're intending to. It's like, well, I have to do it, and then you can intend. Well, I'm intending to do something that's messed up here.
Yeah.
And I guess there's some time to throw in 2554. I'm going to pause and see what the other thing that's getting pretty dark. He's created men from water, gave him kindred of blood and of marriage. All powerful is your Lord. Okay. Yeah. But these people chanting to themselves, blood and soil, blood and soil. Well, these are things that work for you, right? Because you got your, you know, your ancestry and you got your nationality. But the point is, and I nailed this more on last year's seasonal of this one, is that you're not superior just because you're from some nation or because some people were your parents. That's not it. That's not it at all. It's what you do with it. That these are your opportunities. And just like, you know, to think if you're using the consciousness of your eating, that's why I like to include eating in my seasonal rites. Some sort of drink, some sort of thing. Hopefully no animal this like last time tries to take away my food from me in the middle of it. But the that's what happens when you try to do these things outside. Or if I had it, it's like I say, if things get bad, there's the what's the you know, what do they say, a 3-dog winter or a 3-dog night or whatever. I'm if it gets down to 0 or below 0 or something like this, and there's no power, I'm pulling in a cat or something, you know, especially that one that keeps showing up with my videos. That cat has no problem snuggling with me. So I think one of the things right now is it's not so, I'm gonna, so I guess one of the things that we've, you know, closed with the list there, obviously when I'm singing things and I've had time to think about it and stuff like this, I'll get more into it, you know, in a couple weeks when this is up, because honestly that's what this stuff's for. I compose the board even as much as a month or so ahead of time. I'll have the board ready. Sometimes it's only a couple days, but it's a process. It's like, you know, those old grimoires, you pick, you know, you find the stone and then you find this over here. And, you know, there wasn't some occult shop that had all the ingredients for, oh, this is, so some will literally have a table. Oh, you want to do the Grimorium Verum stuff? Here's the parchment that you need and stuff. And well, I hear of it anyways. And I've seen some level of example of this. Oh, this is what you need, this path. Here's everything you need for this path, the stones and everything else. And so they have them organized sort of here. And then over there is the other, you know, but so the alliances, the forging alliances in the journey of life, because that's what it is. There's spiritual, you attract and repel with one's spiritual operations. And in theory, all of life can become part of a spiritual operation. Just like I said with the, you know, you work out. That's as one of the, you know, whether it's walking or running or whatever the case is, you get that blood pumping, and it's part of one's spiritual practice. That's one of the things, I guess, that has stood out with the Order of Nine Angles related groups, is that, you know, they want you to be mentally and physically fit as one's going to be, rather than just some, well, as long as I can sit in front of some candles, I'm good. It's like, it doesn't matter whether you have candles or whatever the thing is. You know,
the mind body connection.
You know, standing out, you know, standing in place out in the weather and stuff like this, whether it's hot or cold or whatnot, that's actually more of a, of course, you're not stupid. One shouldn't be stupid about it, where one gets all frostbitten and burnt, and you know, takes you 2 weeks. You got such a bad sunburn, it takes you 2 weeks to function right again, because it just hurts to even wash. And, you know, that's like one of those ones you get when you're a kid. Because I lived in California during part of my childhood, and I got really burned the one time. I think it wasn't where I lived, but I went to LA, I think, in the middle, you know, in the middle of summer, going to LA, and I think I think there was some serious sunburning going on, like peeling level sunburns. And,
I still have freckles from a sunburn I got when I was a child. And I remember that. I was like, fix. It was bad.
And so blood, the presence of blood, the use of blood, the you know, the what has happened. Like so many people, but discipline's not necessarily okay. You know, but the because discipline could be words or whatever. But you know, whatever the case is, what has happened has tried you, and you know, it's supposed to be used. But it can be put. You know, you don't have to give yourself fresh hardship per se, unless it's to build your strength. You know what? One of the things, if okay, I wasn't sure you knew that the thing can muted.
Yeah.
What was I saying? It's like I used to. There's been sports that I was involved in when I was in better condition, but it's like soccer. You want to get yourself to the point where you can run for an hour.
Right.
Yeah, the game's not but you want to get yourself to the point where you can run for an hour. And so yeah, you're sore, you hurt and all that stuff, but you're learning to move and run and all that other stuff. Same thing with boxing. My grandfather was an athlete, I don't remember the exact title, but he taught for colleges. So he was a coach for a couple universities and a community college or two. I think there was a couple or a few community colleges, but he did do some university time. But anyways, one of the not only are, you know, I was more aware of the technical side, because I could look at the medical charts and stuff like this and that sort of stuff. But if they find out you're trained, you get you know, you'll get more time, because they're like, oh, you should be even more careful. That's more of a sign that's delivered if you killed someone in a fight. And no, I didn't kill someone in a fist fight. But you know, when this ends, I'll get off the program no matter what. But you know, your hands toughen up. You go through some more of soreness than pain per se, but you know what I mean. You go through some of that with that. But one of the things that I like to combine in some of these, because one, I said sometimes like vanilla and chocolate. Vanilla is the symbol of the sexual fluids. Chocolate's a symbol of blood. This was the Mesoamerican way of thinking of it. This is the main symbolism of those two things. But the masculine and the feminine, I like to combine the mention of that. I know I did a seasonal about Lilith, and I don't know if I did anything except address the issue of the feminine with that, because I mean, what else is there that's necessary to that? And yeah, I have a belt, and everything's a mystical tool. You can look at the thing, and basically I picked different names to refer to the stellar or heavenly, thunder, because some of these beings are of light. I mean, some of these beings, it's more about what sound they do, they affect in different ways. And some of that's personal. They see how you are and then they react, whatever. And naive, I meant, because innocence and not knowing stuff is not the same thing. I wanted to bring forth that aspect. And after starting June, July is really where you start to see an uptick in the squirrel and chipmunk activity. So that's part of the reason why I've taken that time of year, is meaning something regarding the squirrels and chipmunks. And so Predator 4 and 5, which does have a couple bit of dark stories, you could say. So I've worked that into it. And I've also worked at, there's this Celt, I forget what the title of it is at the moment. I've used it so much, I should have the title memorized, but whatever, I use the book. That's important thing. I refer to the thing. So have you ever taken part in any seasonal ceremonies per se?
Not not like with anyone. When I was much younger, 19, 20, that's when I got my first, I guess you would call it, occult book. And I did some things in that book, and it produced experiences, I guess you could say. As a matter of fact,
I sense there's some instant messages between me and Michael Ford, and he would be a good interview to have. I'll ask him again. There's conflict with some other guy, and I'm basically like an unknown guy. And the fact that I had quitting 5 times on my channel doesn't look. I think he wants to disassociate himself with that sort of thing. It goes on the news. You're okay with everything else said, and then it goes on the news for something that doesn't actually make the connection, and then you want to disassociate. That just doesn't go over with me. But the
right.
I haven't read. He has some witch moon book or something like this. I don't know. Does this go over some sort of seasonal sabbats or something like that?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh no, that's not the right one. I have some by Raymond Becklin, but yeah, I definitely would like to read some of Michael Ford's. This is actually the book. I said I was 19 when there was some little practices in it that I followed, and yeah, I had some experiences. So it's easy to be misled. And
well, a lot of stuff. Sometimes they don't know, and sometimes they hear this. Oh well, it's just. But as I said, look at what the names of some of these beings mean.
Yeah,
You're gonna call upon
yeah.
So one's got to be honest and figure out that sort of stuff too. And what I truly global vision. You know what I mean by that. I don't mean this globalist thing where they're like, no, that's it's not for the globe. That's for some handful of rich people. That's not. They don't mean they're actually trying to do good for the world. They make you feel like that. That's what all these movements are for. They're trying to make you feel like what they're doing is for the world and all that. It's not. And I've mentioned, there's the kindred you choose and the kindred you don't choose. The kindred that you do choose. Wait, no. What did I say? There's a kindred just because you're related to them. And then there's the kindred you're related because of personal choices of character and stuff like that. And that's what they were meant by kindred honor. And, I was telling you, the issue was people coming into the group trying to mess with the group and get people put in prison and stuff like that. That was the issue that, the one guy was talking about. And relevant actions. That definition of black magic is something that's not part of the path, basically. Like it's it's distraction from your real purpose. And it's like, well, I mean, who are you to who does this person decide what little extras that I don't want on the side, right? because that's like one of the
Right.
things that you involve yourself with some people. Like I've heard, like if you hear the word bidda, it doesn't mean doing something new. It's like it's supposed to be outside the box. So somebody's not familiar with something, they'll like in the Arab world, they'll say that's bidda, or I don't know the whole phrase, bidda or something. Something like that. But but yeah, just doing something new doesn't mean that that's a ridiculous sort of way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that I said with this, usually the breaking into, the weird speech, I let that happen where it's going to happen, and that's usually only in my seasonals. Does it usually come all year? There'll be like a few seasonals or something where it comes out, or maybe all of them, but for some reason that's when that sort of stuff comes out. I have experiences other times, I'm not saying that, but and I'm like, okay, you can face this direction, that direction. Also in the seasonals, I don't I try to like the spring equinox, I carried the satanic front banner. I carried it. I was walking with it through the forest until I found my spot. So that's one of the things that can help. One is maybe seeing my flag that I have composed of something. But I sort of handmade this out of something that I found, and it was way away from a parking lot, so I didn't even know where to put it. So I just said, well, it's been here a week or whatever. I'll take it. So, I could go out and I could find a place. Where am I going to put this? Where am I going to do my thing? And I will do it where this is at. Less than a minute. Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. I just like we are beyond human, that